From the trenches of World War I to modern Serbian battlefields, these tanks shaped a nation's armored history. Some were small and nimble, others massive and powerful, yet all played a role in defense and innovation. We'll cover every prototype, imported model, and domestic design. Nothing is skipped. See how Yugoslavia and Serbia evolved from Renault FTs to the modern M84 upgrades. Era: World War I and immediate post-war, 1910s, 1920s. Early armored vehicles set the stage for Yugoslavia's future tank development. Renault FT. Developed 1917, France. Used post-1918 in Serbia. Created for trench warfare mobility. Used training and reconnaissance. Strength: 360-degree rotating turret. Limitation: light armor and weak 37mm gun. Renault FT M28 or Renault Kegris. Developed 1920s, adapted for Yugoslav use. Created to modernize post-World War I armored units. Used training and domestic security. Strength: reliable mobility. Limitation: outdated by late 1920s. Transition: from these first light tanks, Yugoslavia began exploring more capable interwar designs. Era: Interwar, 1930 to 1939. Yugoslavia tested small tankettes and imported light tanks, balancing cost and mobility. Renault FT continued. Used for training and reserve. Strength: low profile. Limitation: obsolete by 1930s. Renault R35. Developed 1934, imported from France. Created for light infantry support. Used defensive positions. Strength: well-armored for light tank. Limitation: slow speed. Škoda She I-1J tankette. Developed 1930s prototype. Used for reconnaissance and light support. Strength: maneuverable, easy transport. Limitation: weak armament. Škoda T32 or She I-1D tankette. Developed 1936 to 1937, 8 units produced. Used for infantry support and border patrol. Strength: small size, mobile. Limitation: thin armor. Transition: by World War II, older tanks remained in service while new designs were evaluated. Era: World War II, 1939 to 1945. Existing tanks were pressed into combat during the 1941 Axis invasion. Renault FT continued. Used for training and secondary roles. Strength: easy maintenance. Limitation: outdated. Renault R35 fielded. Used for infantry support. Strength: reliable armor. Limitation: undergunned and slow. Škoda T32 She I-1D tankettes. Used in defensive roles. Strength: compact, maneuverable. Limitation: vulnerable to anti-tank weapons. Comparison: even the R35, modern in the 1930s, was outdated against newer World War II tanks. Transition: after World War II, Yugoslavia shifted to Soviet medium and main battle tanks. Era: early Cold War, 1945-1960s. Imports and limited experiments defined Yugoslav armored forces. T-34-85, Soviet import. Developed 1944, imported post-war. Created to provide medium armor. Used training and border defense. Strength: balanced armor, mobility, firepower. Limitation: aging design by the 1960s. T-54, T-55, Soviet import, license. Developed 1947 to 1958. Created for modern MBT capabilities. Used frontline units. Strength: reliable, mass-produced. Limitation: early models lacked modern optics. Su-76 experimental tracked vehicle, developed late 1940s, used prototype testing. Strength, low-profile infantry support. Limitation, never mass-produced. Transition, by the 1970s, Yugoslavia focused on domestic MBT development. Era, late Cold War, 1970s, 1980s. Domestic production matured with M84 and experimental designs. T-72MJ prototypes, developed 1970s, local T-72 modification, used testing only. Strength, testing new upgrades. Limitation, not mass-produced. M84, developed 1980s, licensed T-72M build, used frontline Yugoslav Army units. Strength, modern fire control and mobility. Limitation, slightly inferior armor versus Western MBTs. M84A, developed late 1980s, used active service units. Strength, improved targeting. Limitation, limited production. M91 Vihor, prototype, developed 1980s to 1990, used prototype evaluation. Strength, advanced fire control concepts. Limitation, never produced. Comparison, M84 series was the backbone, while prototypes explored next-generation improvements. Transition, the 1990s brought Serbian upgrades and modernizations after Yugoslavia dissolved. Era, post-Yugoslavia and modern Serbia, 1990s, present. Serbia focused on modernization and extending tank lifespans. M84AS, developed 1990s, used frontline units. Strength, modern optics and protection. Limitation, based on older T-72 chassis. M84AS1/AS3, developed 2000s, 2010s, used active units and training. Strength, advanced targeting, active protection. Limitation, limited production. T-72B1MS, developed 2000s, imported Russian variant, used frontline deployment. Strength, upgraded armor and electronics. Limitation, not domestically produced. M84D modernization package, developed 2000s, used prototype upgrades. Strength, cost-effective improvement. Limitation, limited adoption.